Hi, I'm Anne Marie DeMars, and today I'm going to tell you how to solve some of your problems with the Growing Math website. What problems might those be, you ask? Well, you are teaching fractions and not every student understood it the first time. So maybe you want to reteach it, or you have those students who just aren't turning in their work. They're just not doing it. You have to teach all kinds of subjects. You have to teach science and math and English language arts and social studies. And you're required to include Indigenous culture and history in your social studies curriculum, which you should. Maybe you're in North Dakota and Minnesota, and Ojibwe history and culture is part of that. But how do you find time for everything? And on top of that, what do you do when you have one or two students who are maybe learning at home? Well, we're going to take a look at the Growing Math site and see how that maybe can help. So here's the Growing Math site. It's at growingmath.org. And if we had more time or weren't sure what we were doing, you're not sure what you're doing, but if you were just kind of looking around, you might browse the lessons. But today I know what I need to get done, right? So I'm teaching fractions. So I'd scroll down here and I pick fractions. There's 10 lessons. And I specifically want fractions for grades 4 because I'm a 4th grade teacher. All righty. So I've got the grade selected. I've got the topic selected in under math. I have fractions. I'm going to click submit. And this brings up the lessons for teaching fractions. Well, I'm just starting on fractions with this class, so I'm going to go to the introducing fractions lesson. And every lesson tells you what standards are taught. So the Common Core standards, there's a 3rd grade standard on exactly what is a fraction. It's always good to review at the beginning of your lesson. And then there's a 4th grade standard that says, understand a fraction, a over b, with a is greater than 1. And basically what that means is we're adding unit fractions, right? 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 3/4, and so on. The summary for each lesson is going to tell you what the lesson is about. This one gives the definition of fraction, the parts of a fraction, introduces 1/2 as a fraction, and so on. It takes 30 to 40 minutes, but realistically, by the time Angie tells you that story about how she got a puppy and the office interrupts with announcements and you take attendance, this is realistically going to take an entire class period. So we start with a video.
Our ancestors used math too, including fractions. In the days when Anuk's aunts lived, children kept time by the sun. Her grandmother would say, leave for camp when the lake is 3/4 in shadow. The children would return to the camp before dark. When Anuk's aunts and her cousins arrived at the lake, it was early. None of the lake was in the shadows. See how the lake can be broken into 4 parts? After Anuk's aunts had been at the lake for a little while, 1/4 of the lake was in the shadows. After Anuk's aunts had been at the lake for a while longer, 2/4 of the lake was in the shadows. When Anuk's aunts saw that 3/4 of the lake was in the shadows,
So there's a video that shows how Native Americans might have used math. Then there's a presentation. So you can click on this Google Slides presentation. In theory, you could do it just from the Growing Math site, but personally, I always find it easier to go to File here and make a copy of the presentation in my own Google Drive so that I can edit it, and I like to organize things that way. So you have the Google Slides presentation. Which introduces what is a fraction, breaks down the pieces of fraction. And one thing that I have found often is that students struggle because we sort of skirt over things that we assume they know, like fractions are pieces of whole numbers. What's a whole number? A fraction has 2 parts. What are they? Which is which? So there's 26 slides here. I'm not going to go through all of them. So you have a PowerPoint introducing fractions. It's done as available as Google Slides or PowerPoint. Then there's another video.
1/2. 1/2 can mean that something is divided into 2 equal parts. Is this fair? Did each woman plant 1/2 of the garden? Flip it. Take the top half and drag it over the bottom. Does it cover it up? Is it the exact same size? If so, then yes, they seem to be the same size. 1/2 can also mean that something is divided so that 2 people each share equally. That's fair.
And
Is this fair?
we use this example of fairness because we found that children are often very interested in what is fair. So we give an example of 1/2 as being fair and different things divided into half and different ways you can divide things into half. Because this is something that I would say this is a hill I will die on. As somebody who has taught math at all levels from 5th graders through doctoral students, I believe that people learn much better when they have a lot of different examples. So we have lots of different examples. As you go down here further, you'll see a video where examples of 1/2 are presented as distance, as shape, as dividing the work. So there's yet another video and then another presentation. So this video, this presentation, goes through another example. And Zunge Gano has 4 snares and he's catching rabbits. And so it shows he divided the trail into 4 equal parts and put a snail at each one. And this is showing adding unit fractions like our standard. He walked 2/4 of the trail. So fractions can be shaped. It can be the distance you walked. Walks another, places another snare, walks another 1/4, so 3/4, and so on. So there's your next Google Slides presentation. And why snare rabbits? Remember, I promised that we were going to get involved. We were going to.
Did you ever wonder why we have a legendary road on the reservation here that's called Jackrabbit Road? Our people had to live on small game to provide food for the buffalo was depleted. After we were moved to the reservation, we were starving. 150 people starved because when there was no game, our food left to hunt on the reservation, they were not allowed to leave the res without being severely punished or killed. The memorial was erected in front of the Turtle Mountain Community College. Rabbits are called wapush or waboos. Both are still used here as even on our own.
So there's a video explaining why Zunge Gano might snare rabbits. And now that we've had videos, we've had PowerPoint presentations, we're going to play a game. So the Fish Lake game you can play if you have iPads or computers in your classroom, that is Mac, Windows, computers, or iPads. And that also has a very long list of standards that are taught in that game. We are definitely not going to go through all of those. But fortunately for us, the very beginning of the game covers the exact standards that you're covering in this lesson. What is a fraction, numerator, denominator, adding up unit fractions. So I'll give you a look at what the Fish Lake game looks like really quickly.
Where have you been? Everyone is waiting in the village. They're about to start the meeting.
The land is changing. It may be time for us to continue on to a new place, just like our ancestors before us, just as the Ojibwe have been doing for generations.
As you journey along your way, it might be helpful to know where you're going and who you're going with. The brothers meet in the middle and find their grandfather on the shore of the lake.
So you're going fishing. Do you think you can catch some pike? I feel like eating pike today.
This is a pike. What fraction of the fish are pike?
Are you heading out to go fishing now? The storm seems to have passed. Just be careful on your way to the shore. The storm
So there's Fish Lake, but you may say, but I don't have iPads. I don't have Mac or Windows computers. Well, then you might want to play Forgotten Trail. We also have a game for you. And you can see that it teaches fractions and basic statistics. So you play one of those games for 15 to 30 minutes. We think they're pretty fun games, but even a really fun game, after 30 minutes, kids start to lose interest. And so now you have gone through you've gone through fractions multiple ways. You have had multiple videos, you've had 2 presentations, you've had a game that they played, and that's your class period. There's also assessment included, which if you look on that lesson at the bottom of it, there's a couple of kinds of assessment. There's assessment within the games. And there's also a pre and post test that you can take if you're doing a whole unit on fractions. At the beginning, you can see what the students know. And at the end, you can see if they've improved, or you can just give the test at the end. But assessment is for another day. So today we have seen how you could use an entire lesson by pulling together the videos, the slide presentations, and the games available to you from Growing Math.